The U.S. men's national team is in a weird spot right now. Just coming off a dominant performance in the Nations League, where they triumphed over both Mexico and Canada, outscoring them 5-0, the achievement was overshadowed by the announcement of Gregg Berhalter returning to coach the national team, which came out about 10 minutes into the U.S.A. v Mexico match. A squad that has incredible potential and is undoubtedly the American golden generation for football has everyone asking the same question. Why? Why Gregg Berhalter again? We had what the United States Soccer Federation is calling an extensive process to find our new manager to lead this generation of American football to the top. So, how have we ended right back where we started? We've ended up here again because this has actually happened before. In 1998, Bruce Arena was hired to usher in a new generation of the U.S. men's national team, which got off on the right foot. In 2002, we won the Gold Cup, and we also got to the quarterfinal of the World Cup, which we have not gotten that far in a very long time. And actually, the furthest we've ever gone was the semifinal, which was one time and in 1930. Which, unfortunately, after that, by the 1950s, we would have 40 years of not being at a World Cup. But after 2002, Bruce Arena won another Gold Cup in 2005, where he would then step aside in 2006, and we would then bring in Bob Bradley starting in 2007. Now, Bob Bradley would last in the job until 2011, which then in 2011, we would bring in Jurgen Klinsmann, which, in my opinion, did one of the best jobs with the U.S. men's national team, especially at the 2014 World Cup, when we were in a group with Belgium, Portugal, and Ghana, and made it out of that group. Now, Jurgen Klinsmann would have the highest of his highs probably at that World Cup because he did win the Gold Cup in 2013, the year prior to the World Cup in Brazil, but then unfortunately would leave the post in 2016. Now you're probably wondering, all right, how does history repeat itself exactly? Well, we're getting to that point now. In 2017, Bruce Arena comes back, and it got started on the right foot. We won the Gold Cup again in 2017. But his main job, obviously, qualify for the World Cup. And that he did not do in embarrassing fashion, which led to him resigning shortly after. After that, an interim manager took over strictly to do friendlies with the U.S. men's national team, and come December 2018, Gregg Berhalter would become our manager. So as you can see, we've gone down this road before of going back to what we have known, what we have had in the past, and expecting a different result, or at least hoping for a different result. Now, managerial appointment-wise, we've never really been ambitious with the national team. It's never really been going for the big names. And honestly, Jurgen Klinsmann is probably one of the biggest names that we have had manage the U.S. men's national team, aside from Bruce Arena. And Bruce Arena is a big-time name because he's been around the MLS forever. Bob Bradley, you could also kind of say that, but his spells abroad have not gone well, and I know that because I'm a Swansea City fan. He lasted about 6 months and got sacked. Now, usually when we are hiring managers, the majority of the time, they tend to be American managers, but another thing that goes along with that is that they usually have some connections with them. Bruce Arena had friends in high places. Yes, he was a great manager, still is a great manager, and is currently the manager of the New England Revolution, but he had some friends in high places. Then Bob Bradley had his son on the U.S. national team, who he now coaches his son again at Toronto FC in the MLS. And Gregg Berhalter, his brother, was a part of the appointment process of the next manager after Bruce Arena. So Gregg got hired by his brother. Another thing that doesn't really help with us trying to bring in bigger managers or bigger names in the managerial world is that we haven't really been great on the international stage. CONCACAF-wise, we're okay with being the best of CONCACAF, and even then, we still have to wrestle that title away from Mexico every now and then, and right now, we most definitely are the best in CONCACAF. We're better than Mexico and Canada, but even then, when we try and approach someone like Zinedine Zidane, or if we were trying for Jose Mourinho, we wouldn't be able to really attract them here because we don't have the success to back up, okay, we can do something. And just for example, on the world stage, World Cup-wise, 2002, we got to the quarterfinals. Sick. We talked about that earlier on. That's absolutely phenomenal. But then in 2006, we got knocked out in the group stage. 2010 in South Africa, round of 16 knockout. 2014 in Brazil, round of 16 knockout. 2018 comes around, didn't qualify, Bruce Arena leaves. We kind of go through a whole transformation, and Taylor Twellman has the famous "What are we doing" speech. And then 2022, the Qatar World Cup, the one that was this past winter, round of 16 exit. So we haven't really gone deep and shown, okay, we can challenge to win this. And the only time we did was in 2002. And if anything, we have regressed since then. And when we participate in the Copa America, we don't do much better. The highest we've ever finished in the Copa America, like I said, when we participate, because it's basically on an invite basis, or if we happen to be hosting it, like we are in 2024, highest we finished is 4th. So we either go out in the group stage or we finish 4th. So the likes of Zinedine Zidane, a Pep Guardiola, or a Jose Mourinho, as of right now, coming to manage us, highly, highly unrealistic, but very, very ambitious, which I would like to see us be just a tiny bit more ambitious if things don't happen to work out with Gregg in the near future. But in a way, going back to Gregg Berhalter is exactly like what they did with Bruce Arena. Going back, trying something again and again, hoping for different results or outcomes or hopes, and expecting a different result. That borders on the edge of insanity. Just because you know what we will most likely be getting from Gregg and that he knows the group, he knows the culture, he's kind of instilled everything in these players, doesn't mean that he is the right man for the job. Or does it? Is there a method to the U.S. men's national team madness right now? Personally, I think there just might be. So when Gregg came in, he wanted to instill a new culture, instill a new vision that we need to trust the youth. And we are one of the youngest national teams out there right now. And we are doing pretty solid for being one of the youngest national teams out there right now. Another thing that he wanted to do was recruit, bring in some more players, bring in players that are due nationals that may not get playing time elsewhere, but under us can become stars. And he has done just that and then some with the players that he has brought in, some being major stars at the 2022 World Cup. Some of those players being Yunus Musa, Serginho Dest, Jesus Ferreira, Daryl Dike, Alex Dejas, and Jordan B. Folk, plus more. Now, obviously, Gregg Berhalter is going to be not only measured on the type of culture and vision and everything that he instills in these players and gets them on board with the system and whatnot, also with the recruitment of players, but his success. Has he been successful as a U.S. men's national team manager? And honestly, yeah, he has. I mean, he won the Gold Cup with our B team against Mexico's A team, and then he wins the First Nations League, which, I mean, that is probably one of my favorite games I have watched of the U.S. men's national team. Yes, it was kind of sketchy and didn't know if we were going to get over the line, but in the end, he has 2 trophies to his name and 2 more trophies to the U.S. men's national team cabinet. But getting to the World Cup, that was probably the most important thing. And judging on success, what would have been a successful World Cup for us? Well, going from not qualifying to just being there in general, I would say is some level of success. Not where I wish we could have been, because realistically speaking, if we brought all of our best players, played the best possible system for them, we probably could have gotten to the quarters. But unfortunately, we only got to the round of 16. But that group that we were in the group stage was no easy group, because we ended up making it harder on ourselves than we needed it to be. But in a way that shows that even though we didn't have our best team, Gregg still found a way to get through the group. Now, being in the group that we were in, it was not easy whatsoever. Being in it with England, Wales, and Iran. I mean, getting a 0-0 draw against England, I guess we'll take that. I mean, it's a point at the end of the day. Getting a 1-1 draw with Wales, we definitely should have and could have won that game. But having to put all of our energy, every single ounce of what we had, into beating that Iran team, yes, it showed that we could get the job done, but also that Iran team was nothing to sneeze at. It was very, very solid. They had plenty of players that play in Europe, as did we. But once again, being that it's Gregg Berhalter, it's very, very heavy in MLS what players that he brings. And that brings me to my next point right here, is that That is one thing that a lot of people have issues with, and why a lot of people question Gregg Berhalter is the amount of players he uses from the MLS, and sometimes not even the best ones that he uses from the MLS. But all in all, he has given a lot of players a lot of opportunities, which a lot of these players wouldn't have gotten these opportunities under any other manager. So we wouldn't know what talent we have out there. And that's one reason why Jesus Ferreira ended up committing to play for the U.S. men's national team, is because he knew he was going to get opportunities. Now, due to that heavy use of MLS players, it kept players from Europe either getting game time or being there at all. And when you aren't playing one of our best center backs, Cameron Carter-Vickers from Celtic, which Celtic fans love, he actually just won a treble over there, that's kind of an issue when you're going with the MLS player and Walker Zimmerman over him. Cameron Carter-Vickers only got one game, did great in it, but only got one game, and Walker Zimmerman played a majority of the games, made plenty of mistakes, given in the Nations League he actually looked pretty good recently, but in general, Cameron Carter-Vickers is definitely a player that you play over him, especially moving forward when Tim Ream is most likely not going to be playing for much longer. You need him and Chris Richards back there, not Chris Richards and Walker Zimmerman. But like I said, some players didn't even get to go, two of those being strikers, which we lacked goals. We didn't really score. We scored four goals the whole time. We scored once against Wales, twice against Iran, once against the Netherlands, didn't score at all against England. So 4 times, and you leave 2 strikers that were either in form or starting to get in form at home. Those being Jordan Pefok, who played for Union Berlin in the Bundesliga, and Ricardo Pepi, who was on loan at Groningen, really kicked it on later on in the season because he was upset for being left out of the squad. I mean, when Gregg Berhalter called him to let him know, he hung up on him. And honestly, Ricardo Pepi probably would have been one of our better options up front with him and Josh Sargent. And I think that Ricardo Pepi probably would have been better than Josh Sargent. And I'm a St. Louisan saying that because that's where Josh is from. And I mean, he also would bring more to the table than Jesus Ferreira would, because Jesus likes dropping deeper. And when he played, we saw that from him as well. But the biggest problem that came to a head at the World Cup for Gregg, for the national team as a whole, for U.S. men's national team media, was the issues that surrounded the Giovanni Reyna instances. I'll call them instances because that's what they were. Yes, all of us wanted Gio Reyna to play more. He needs to play more. He is probably one of our best players, not only right now, but moving forward might become our best player. He is magic on the ball and very fun to watch, and that's what we wanted to see at the World Cup. We wanted to see what this kid was capable of. And we got told, oh, he's hurt. That's why he didn't play. Then Gio comes out and says, no, I'm not hurt. And then his parents call the teacher, basically, call the principal and say, hey, why is our kid not playing? And then everything kicks off from that point on. Which, if you want to read up on that and you're not caught up on exactly what happened, which everything is A-okay now, but if you want to read any of that, just look over the internet. It's everywhere and everyone's covered it at some point by now. But in the end, Gregg was doing what he thought at the time was best for the national team, and what he thought was best for our chances as a whole at the World Cup, which he got us through the group stage, which I'm pretty sure a majority of fans, especially the casuals, were just happy that we got through the group stage. Now, with that Gio Reyna stuff, the U.S. men's national team started an investigation in all of it to see if any actions need to be taken, or if Gregg Berhalter was going to end up not being fit to come back and be the national team manager. So 6 months of an investigation and 6 months of job interviews for our managerial top position. And at the end of the day, there were 2 names that really stood out at the end. Those were Jesse Marsch and Patrick Vieira. Now, for both of them, I believe there are definite reasons as to why they did not get hired and why Gregg did. I'll start with Patrick Vieira. Patrick Vieira, absolutely baller of a midfielder back in the day, part of the Arsenal Invincibles, knows how to win, knows what it takes to win, knows how to develop youngsters, as he's done that at New York City FC, was also managing some of the youth levels of Manchester City, went to OGC Nice as well, ended up managing at Crystal Palace also. But speaking of OGC Nice, and especially Crystal Palace, He was sacked from both of those positions. Given the Crystal Palace one was definitely way more harsh than the OGC Nice one, as he did not have yes, they weren't a great run of games, but he was basically playing against the best of the best in the Prem at the time, had a boatload of injuries, not trying to make excuses for him, but at the end of the day, they ended up sacking him. And another thing that looms over his head is that the season prior, when Everton was fighting for their lives, there was a pitch invasion, and Patrick Vieira got in a fight with a fan. So, being that we've already dealt with one thing with Gregg Berhalter, do we really want to deal with that with Patrick Vieira? I don't think so. Now, Jesse Marsch probably had a leg up on Patrick Vieira, and that being because, one, he is American, but two, he has managed some of these players that are in the U.S. men's national team, that being Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, and Brendan Aronson, because he had them at Leeds United. But being that, yes, he did great in the MLS. He did great with the Red Bulls. That is why Ralph Rangnick brought him over to be his assistant coach at RB Leipzig. Did pretty solid there. Gets the job at RB Salzburg. RB Salzburg, basically, for those of you who don't know, is the PSG of Austrian football. And they have amazing youngsters there as well. They are scattered all over the place. That's where Erling Haaland came from. Also, for those of you that do not know. But he did great there. Then gets the gig at RB Leipzig. Parts ways because they weren't seeing eye to eye, but also results were not good. He then gets the job at Leeds United, staves off relegation, gets a budget to bring in who he wants to play his system and everything, and gets sacked because they were once again in a relegation battle, which unfortunately Leeds was not able to stave off, and they are now going down to the championship. But he was also linked to Southampton to potentially help them stay up. One, they couldn't come to terms on anything, and two, he also was probably holding out for the U.S. men's national team job, so he already kind of thought that he had it in a way. But him nor Patrick Vieira have proven themselves at that top level. They haven't been able to win at that top level. And as much as it pains me to say this, Gregg Berhalter has. Now, a bunch of you are probably saying, what are you talking about? He got sacked from a Swedish side. Well, Swedish football is pretty solid last time I checked. But also, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about him and his performance, being able to win with a B team against Mexico's A team in a Gold Cup, winning in crunch time for a Nations League, and also getting out of the group at the World Cup. But the main reason why we didn't beat the Netherlands, you can put it down to tactics, but it was player personnel choices. If he brings the right people, we probably give them way more of a game because we were lucky that we got the one goal and broke the shutout. But if he brings the right people, I think that we can definitely give them a game then. And I think if we play the 4-2-3-1 that BJ Callahan's been implementing with the national team, especially against Mexico and Canada, we saw how good they are with it. I think if you do that, have that 4-2-3-1, the right players, the right personnel, we probably give them way more of a game, and we're going away with our heads held high instead of holding our heads low. So Gregg's definitely been able to perform at the high level, but he wasn't exactly ready for it. The question is he now? And personally, I hope he is, because we definitely need him to be with Copa America around the corner in 2024. Now, in this time, which I've just previously discussed BJ Callahan, in this time that Gregg Berhalter was not at the helm of the U.S. men's national team, we've had two interim managers, one being Anthony Hudson, who did absolutely phenomenal and earned himself a job over in the Middle East now, and now BJ Callahan, who in his first two games, he beat Mexico 3-0, Canada 2-0, and just drew Jamaica 1-1 with what is our C team, basically, and their A team. So he's definitely everyone swooning over the guy right now, and I think that BJ Callahan is a great manager. Unfortunately for us, his contract expires pretty soon, so who knows if he'll be the assistant to Gregg Berhalter. But one thing that both of them have done that Gregg was not doing was getting big time results, big score results, smoking the opposition out of the water. Gregg was not able to do that, whereas those two were. Now, one thing that you can think and hope for is that, okay, this system that they've both been using, maybe this is what Gregg's going to be implementing. Maybe they're getting the players ready for it so that they don't have to adapt and change again. But also at the same time, do we think Gregg is capable of playing this entertaining soccer, this pressing style? Because majority of the time he kind of sits back and just meh. That's kind of his style, or as it seems, to where we kind of let the game come to us, even though we're not good enough to do that. Now, going forward, this team is good enough to do that. I definitely believe so. These players are getting better and better and better each and every week. A lot of them are linked with big-time moves currently over in Europe because a lot of them are in teams that are going in different directions, but also these players are sought-after commodities right now because, I mean, one, they're American, so it brings in jersey sales, but two, they bring a lot to the table right now, and especially a player like Gio Reyna, being that Jude Bellingham just left Borussia Dortmund. If Gio Reyna is healthy for an entire season, watch out at Borussia Dortmund. I get to watch him every week because I love Borussia Dortmund, watch him all the time. So I've seen his super sub performances. I know what he's capable of. And if he's doing that every single week, Gio Reyna can most definitely become one of our most important players and will give Gregg no choice but to play him going forward. Because with that 4-2-3-1, Gio Reyna needs to play that number 10. And our new striker, Valerian Balogun, which under Gregg has kind of had a musical chair of strikers. He now has an elite striker, an elite out-and-out striker that he needs to play every single chance he gets. If he has them two connecting time and time and time again, we are going to have a lot of success in our near future, especially in CONCACAF, which don't really grade that too highly right now because we are without a doubt the best. We need to see how they perform at Copa America. If Copa America does or goes really well with Gregg at the helm, perfect. Keep him on. If not, we might need to bite the bullet and look in a different direction moving forward and maybe try and convince one of these big names to come in, because if we have the players and the product that they're looking for, then perfect. But recently we haven't had that, and unfortunately as of right now they haven't seen us like that either. So I think we need to finish third or above with Gregg to have others take us seriously, maybe even really threaten either, in my opinion, Brazil or Argentina in the final and get to the final and really threaten them, potentially win the Copa America, which that is a major hypothetical, but that is the type of thing that needs to happen to where people take the U.S. seriously instead of wondering, okay, what exactly is going on with the U.S. men's national team right now? So, Berhalter is taking over the U.S. men's national team. That is a fact once again, and he is taking it over in probably what is the most important time in the U.S. men's national team history, with Copa America coming up next year and the World Cup coming here in a joint host with Canada and Mexico in 2026. The team is full in with potential. It's a lot of hungry young players that want to prove themselves. We have a back line finally that we can really truly believe in and have faith in, whether that is Anthony Robinson, Miles Robinson, Tim Ream, Chris Richards, and Serginho Dest will be 4 of those 5. If Tim isn't around to play in the World Cup, I believe in those 4 others, and I think a lot of other people do as well. But right now, Gregg has the perfect opportunity to help take these players to that next level. I mean like a top level. But not only does he have to help them reach that, he himself needs to hit that next top level. He needs to hit that top level and prove to everyone he truly is the man for the job. Because as you sit here and probably think about it, it's like, okay, he probably is the best choice right now. Because it's not like we can just go out and say, hey, Jose Mourinho, we know that you just lost in the Europa League final and probably want to try and win another trophy with Roma, but do you want to come manage the United States and win a Gold Cup? Like that's not going to happen right now. So Gregg Berhalter probably is the best and most realistic choice for us right now. But with Copa America coming next year in 2024, Berhalter really needs to prove himself. And I think at minimum we need to finish third for him to be able to keep his job. because realistically speaking, in the Americas, I would put us top four. The only teams above us, I would say, are Brazil, obviously, Argentina, and Uruguay. I think those are the only three teams ahead of us. I think that we can really challenge, and if everyone is really on it, we might be able to get to a final, depending on who we play. But we definitely need to have a good performance in Copa America, or we may have to bite the bullet and this time for sure move in a different direction from Berhalter so that we have an incredible chance at doing something good and great and impressive at the 2026 World Cup. If you all happen to enjoy today's video, please feel free, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below how you think we're going to do in Copa America, if you think we're going to finish in third, if you think we can win it, if you think we're going out in the group stages. Let me know if you also think Gregg Berhalter is going to be our manager come the World Cup in 2026. Personally, I think we are too good for him to screw up a chance at the Copa America and lose his job to where we have someone else at that point. I think we are too good right now, and he really needs to capitalize on this opportunity. But once again, if you guys happen to enjoy it, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.